What's up and welcome to another episode of Gizmo Slip Tech. Today we're taking a look at the GP75 Leopard from MSI. This is their $14.99 mid-range laptop option, and it's very interesting. I don't think I can really recommend it for a number of reasons. Overall, it's not a bad laptop. This was a laptop sent to me by HID Evolution, and in many respects, it's a very commendable laptop with good thermals and other aspects, but there are a number of reasons why I can't really recommend this one. And I think we can take this laptop as an example of a laptop that's not really that great of a deal, but you are getting a few premium features that if they're worth it for you, then maybe it's worth picking up this laptop anyway, despite maybe it not being the best performance for the money. So let's talk specs for this GP75 Leopard. First of all, we have a 144 Hz 1080p display. Now, MSI claims this is a 3 millisecond response panel. I do not have the tools to verify this claim. Now, this features an i7-9750H processor, which is the latest from Intel, and it has a slight performance gain over the 8750H depending on the laptop chassis that it's in. Thicker laptops will definitely perform better overall for both the 8750H and the 9750H, and you'll see that here in a moment when we compare this to some other laptops. Now, this features 16 gigs of dual channel DDR4 2666 megahertz memory, and it's a good thing this is dual channel. Dual channel memory does improve performance. Now, of course, we're using the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1660 Ti with 6 gigs of GDDR6 memory. Now, I've never reviewed a laptop with a 1660 Ti in it, so this is going to be very interesting to see how it stacks up versus like the 1060, the 1070, RTX 2060, 2070, 2080 Max Q, all of those. And we'll be diving into some of those comparisons when we get to the benchmarks. Now, this comes with a 512 gig M.2 PCIe NVMe SSD. There's also an empty HDD bay, and there is an actual hard drive adapter caddy in the box if you want to install one of the 2.5-inch drives. For wireless, it uses the Intel Wireless AC9650, which of course comes with Bluetooth 5.0, which is pretty freaking awesome, especially if you have Bluetooth 5.0 headphones now, which are starting to become a lot more common and are dramatically better overall user experience. Now, it has a 180 watt AC power brick. It's very reasonably sized and very portable as well, so you don't have to worry about a giant power brick with this machine. Now, it has a 51 watt hour battery, which is admittedly not that big. It's actually fairly small. I think that's one of the areas that they had to cut to keep the minimal bezel display design and the overall thinness of the laptop. Now, according to MSI, it weighs 5.7 pounds and is 1.08 inches thick. When I weighed it, it weighed 5 pounds 7.8 ounces, which is pretty close to what MSI claimed. It's actually a little bit lighter than what MSI claimed. Maybe if you stuck the full HDD in there with the caddy, then it'd probably be 5.7 pounds. Now, one nice thing about this laptop is it comes with a 1-year drop warranty. So if you accidentally drop this laptop, you will be able to get it repaired, even if it's your fault from accidentally dropping it. So since this laptop was sent to me by HID Evolution, they do a number of baseline upgrades, and some of these really make a difference. First of all is the $65 thermal upgrade with the GELED GC Extreme on the CPU and GPU. These are going to improve the GPU and CPU temps by maybe 5 to 10 degrees, depending on how bad the stock application of a thermal paste would be. Now, they did a few other things that I think are extremely minor, but are nice little features if you want to add on to it if you order from HID Evolution. So you can have the display professionally calibrated. You can also get the display quality checked for minimal backlight bleed, and that means that if the panel on the display has a lot of backlight bleed issues, they'll swap it for a different laptop or swap the display inside the unit. Now, this one also features a 30-day zero defective pixel warranty, which is a $35 bonus. They also did a fresh clean install of Windows 10, so there's very minimal bloatware, though I did have to download and install some of the latest drivers when I got the laptop. Alright, so that covers the baseline specs of the machine. Let's talk about the design. Now, this has a minimal bezel design for the display, which is really nice. Though the laptop overall as a whole is predominantly plastic, especially on the bottom, the keyboard tray as well as the top lid is metal to give you more of a premium feel. Now, there is a reasonable amount of flex if you press down hard, especially on the right side here. The left side, not so much. Now, gaming on the 144 Hz 1080p display was fantastic, no issues, and watching content was also quite good. It's a fairly colorful display, about standard for your high-end 144 Hz displays out there. Now the SteelSeries keyboard has excellent backlighting. It's very bright. You can still see the keys in fairly bright environments, as you can see right now, especially if you like showing off a bright backlit keyboard. This is a decent laptop for that. Now typing on this laptop was actually surprisingly excellent. I thought it would be a little bit more mushy feeling, but they do kind of have a shunk to the keys, which gives you really good feedback when you're actually typing on the machine. And I was able to quickly adapt to the keyboard when I was writing out the review for this laptop. Another thing I want to point out about the keyboard is the layout. We have the number pads kind of scrunched against this side here, so the number pad is a little bit narrower, but you do have a full number pad on the keyboard, which is good, which makes sense also because this is a 17-inch display, so there's that. Now the touchpad is very smooth and very large. Two large mechanical clickable buttons do provide great feedback. Scrolling up and down was fine. I didn't seem extremely precise and smooth, but it worked just fine from my experience. Now the port selection is pretty great on this laptop. On the left side we have a mic and headphone jack, a USB-C 3.2, a USB-A 3.2, a mini display port, an HDMI, and a LAN. And then on the right side we have a full-size SD card reader and two more USB Type A 3.2s, which is really nice. We got some up-to-date technology on here. The main thing that's missing is a Thunderbolt port, and I kind of wish they had stuck maybe one more USB Type A on here, maybe on the back. Now the 51 watt-hour battery in this machine is pretty small. You've got a total cap of like 99 watt-hours according to the, if you want to be able to fly with it on an airline. So this is about half the size of the potential capacity of other laptops. Now the good news here is that you do have NVIDIA Optimus, and Optimus is going to allow you to switch to the Intel graphics in here for extended battery life sessions, and I was able to get about 5 hours of typing on a Word document with Wi-Fi on and a browser open with brightness at 50%. So that's pretty good, and if I were to optimize this some more, maybe just write in the Word document, no browsing, no Wi-Fi, you're probably looking at close to 6 hours of battery life. And of course, if you're being more blatant, you have the brightness up, you're browsing the web on a ton of tabs, you're probably looking at closer to 3 to 4 hours of battery usage. All right, and that brings us to the benchmarks. Let's dive into them. Here we go. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we had the highest settings. We got 64 frames per second on average, which is pretty good. Noticeably though, there was some times where it dipped down to like 40, 50 in the benchmark, so know that you're not looking at perfectly fluid gameplay, but 64 frames is plenty enough to play some games. And of course, if you lower the settings down some more, we got up to 86 frames per second on all low. On Fortnite, on all epic settings, we had 117, and again on all low, 221. So Fortnite's a game where you're definitely going to be able to take advantage of that 144 hertz refresh rate. Playing Apex Legends on all max settings, we got 106, which is really, really good. You can play some excellent games, but if you want to max out the 144 hertz refresh rate, you'll probably want to put some settings down to the lower side, in which we got up to 181 on all low. Far Cry 5 with everything on ultra, we got 82 frames per second, very, very playable and a smooth experience. The Witcher 3, we also got 65 FPS. Now let's go ahead and see how this lines up with some other laptops out there. So taking a look at 3D Mark Firestrike Ultra, we got 3238. Now this is certainly a reasonable performance, but it's not, I think, great, especially for the price point of $1499. Taking a look at the Aorus 15 with the RTX 2070, it's $700 more, but you're getting a lot more performance at $4925. The RTX 2080 Max Q, really not as much performance for the money because it costs even more, but has lower performance than the Aorus. The Area 51M with the maxed out and RTX 2080 got 6111, almost double of what this machine is capable of, but again, you're paying more than double for it, so you're really not getting a great bang for the buck for the Alienware either. But the big contender here, we have the Asus GL504S. Thing is a huge bang for the buck with the GTX 1070 and the i7-8750H coming in at only $1519. And that does have a high refresh rate screen. It's smaller, it's lighter than this one, and it's getting quite a bit more performance. Moving on, let's go ahead and go to the TimeSpy graphics score. The GP75 Leopard got 5756, so we're definitely getting reasonable performance here, especially for the money, but it's not like ultra high performance per dollar, which is disappointing, especially since this has the 1660 Ti, which is supposed to deliver great bang for the buck. But let's keep going. So the Cinebench R15 multi-score, this is a CPU isolated test to see how the 9750H does. And we've got a few other 9750H and 8750Hs here. The 9750H actually underperforms compared to the other 9750H, the 8750Hs from last year. It really didn't perform that well in here, and the number one reason was it was being power limit throttled. The other thing was the undervolting was incompatible with Intel XTU. It refused to take any additional undervolts. It was locked to the stock 0.065 millivolt undervolt, but unfortunately, you're really not getting the optimal performance. And of course, that's with a thermal repaste from HID Evolution, and we're not getting thermal throttled at all. We're not even getting close to the thermal cap. It's just the power limit cap. So really not the best performance from the 9750H here. It's just kind of like middle tier, about average-ish. Just kind of sad anyway, because I love CPU performance because I edit lots of videos. Anyway, the Far Cry 5 benchmark ultra gaming performance. Let's take a look at how this stacks up. So 82 frames per second with the GP75 Leopard. And the big thing here is that the Asus GL504S still beats the GP75 Leopard in a real game test, hitting 90 FPS compared to the 82. That's about 10% more performance in a real life game for about 20 bucks more. Which I think is a steal. Anyway, Apex Legends on all low, we're getting 181 FPS. This is great performance for this laptop. If you're looking to play Apex Legends, this laptop will kick some ass. Taking a look at The Witcher 3, we have our Ultra City Run benchmark. Average 65 FPS in this test, and even the Asus GL504S with the GTX 1070 did 77. So more than 10%, like 15% performance improvement for the GL504S. I think it's kind of not looking so good for this laptop on price to performance ratio. So here we have our Heaven benchmark and Firestrike physics test. This is a dual heavy load. This is to test the fan noise. It's also to test the clock speeds and how bad does this laptop throttle when we're just cramming as much processing through it as possible with the CPU and GPU. So, taking a look at the results, the max fan noise that we reached with the maximum fan is only 54 decibels, which is pretty quiet for a maximum fan settings. Here, I'll just turn it on real quick. You can certainly hear it, but it's not nearly as deafening as the Aorus, which was like over 60. So this is really good. Now the default fan only hit 51 decibels, which is even better. The max fan GPU temp was 65 degrees, so that's an exceptionally fantastic temperature. I just want to say that right now. That's fantastic. And the default fan, we got up to 74 degrees. So still really great temperatures on the GPU, whether you're using the default fan or the max fan. So it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, whether you run this with max fans on or not. Now, when you're doing max fan with the CPU, it got up to 74 degrees, and the default fan got up to 79 degrees. So the great thing here is we're not going to be thermal throttled at all for either of the components, which is just really, really good. Now, the downside here is that we are still seeing some throttling. The maximum fan GPU average was 1897, and the default fan GPU average was only 1857. We're getting about 40 clocks higher when we're running the fans on max, and that might have to do with like the BIOS. When you hit the max fan, it's just like, okay, we can increase the power limit by just a little bit or something. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. Now the max fan with the CPU, we did get quite a bit more performance at 3802 average clock speed versus the default fan only 3660. So again, maybe when you hit that max fan mode, it raises the power limits just like a little bit. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. Why can't I recommend this laptop? Like not 100% at least. And that primarily comes down to the overall performance for the price. You've got that Asus GL504S. It costs almost exactly the same amount as this machine, and yet it outperformed this machine in basically every test that we did, which is not great. I think when you're looking to get a laptop, pretty much everyone wants to get the most bang for the buck, the most performance you can for the money. And this laptop just isn't the best performance for the money, but if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of performance, you are getting some newer hardware. You know, you got the updated USB ports, you got the internal 9750H, which is nice, you got the 1660 Ti, which is a newer-ish graphics card, even if technically it performs worse than the GTX 1070. And of course you have the new keyboard here. The keyboard is excellent. The usability of this laptop overall is excellent. It's a fairly light laptop for a 17-inch laptop, and it's very very portable. It's really kind of a good, complete overall package aside from the price to performance aspect. So, I mean, if you're looking for around a $1,500 laptop, I do recommend the GL504S over this one. But if you bought this one, I certainly wouldn't feel bad about it. But I feel like the price point for this laptop really should be more like $13.99, and that's really where the price to performance ratio kind of hits more of a sweet spot for me. So that's my review of the GP75 Leopard. I hope that you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, smash that like button, and if you want to see more tech reviews in the future, hit that subscribe button. I will see you in the next one. Brandon out. Watch out! Wow.